All right, this video is going to be 25 minutes of just doing whatever I do. So let's get started. I wrote my notes down, what the problem I'm struggling with. The first thing I was struggling with this morning was just I wasn't real happy with the state I had left the Google Charts library in. So I have improved that now, a little simpler. That'll be easier to work with later. But now the problem is sample data. So I want sample data. Let's go ahead and sign in here. So I'm going to sign into App Builder. And yeah. And we're going to ChartDensity. Run application. Log in. That's going to be necessary. And we are app@foo.com. So I've got this test user. We're going to log in. Go to datasets. Trying to get off LastPass. It's kind of a pain. So if I click default dataset, I think there's data for that. No data for that one. Which one do I have data for? And that error is expected. Maybe new dataset 33. No. I think there's data for one of these, unless I wiped it out already. Okay. You know what? I changed the interface on the charts, so that ain't going to work. Okay, so we're not going to worry about that. Okay. So let's close out our Google Charts stuff. And what we want to do is we are in our app user. And select user ID, username from SAS auth. So these are my users. And I've got appfoo, and that is the user that I do not want to wipe out. That is user ID 341. Okay, so if we go to our install, install script, and we go to app users, here's where we are installing that user. Hey, maybe below should install app@foo.com user. There's a note. Somebody else may eventually come along and want to know what I'm doing here. So if the user exists, if the user exists, so this is not what we want to do. We do not want to delete this user any longer. Now, a lot of people I see coding are going to do that. I try to adhere to most or some of the clean code principles most of the time or some of the time, and you know what? We just delete that. Actually, we don't want to delete it. What we want to do is, if this user, if the user does not exist, another good practice, put those in. Shouldn't be too many. There's a lot of little details you got to remember from clean coding, and main thing is I don't remember them all the time, but when I do see one like this one, yeah, P, and if I break something, then that'll be helpful. What did I just do? Okay, so if the app config environment is dev and we have an app test user, a regular app config app test user, that's your regular user. That is, if we go back to here, that is going to be this user right here, my user. So if it's not null, a lot of times in config files, people might put a zero-length string in there. So we trim it and then check it for null. And you know what? While we're here, maybe we should do the same for that. Uh-oh. If not, no, what am I doing? Oh, username exists, blah, blah. The assumption here is, oh, there is no assumption. Okay, we don't need to trim that one. Because we're doing a user exists. We're doing that here too. I think it has to have a value, so if you pass null in, it throws an error. Interesting. Well, I think that might throw an error if it's null, so we don't really want to, it's not a big deal, who cares? We'll just set it. It's supposed to be set anyway. So we're adding the account if the user does not exist. So if does username exist? No. Add this account, and it is going to be an active account, meaning it doesn't need to be email verified. You can put, like, I think default is inactive, and then there's locked and active. And I'm not sure if locked actually does anything at this point. Okay, so what this means is every time we run install, we're not going to wipe this user out. It's going to stay there, and hopefully the data will stay there. Now, there's another variable that's in my config for this app, which may have sensitive information in it. So we'll use default to show the example. But it is app dev drop tables, and it false to false. But it's set to true here. And so that means when I run the install, if we have, in our app schema, if this is true, it's going to run this block up here, which will drop the table data assets and rebuild it every time. This is not going to work for me because I don't want to lose that data, because I may have, I need statistics history to build up. There are a lot of ways I could get stats history. I could put it in another schema, and then I could copy it over as part of the install process. But I need this history in order to display charts, and I don't want to use completely artificial data. I started down that road. Actually, let's do something else right now that I just thought of. So I started down the road in K2 of creating a K2 stat test. And it works. It's cool. You know, you put in a starting timestamp and ending timestamp. It's using this cool ArcSQL number random Gaussian standard distribution to get some random numbers. But it really isn't the right design at all. And then I ended up just having to force a bucket name in there that I'm using, and even my default dataset user ID, which was based on an actual user ID. This is not going to work. And I really don't want to do this right now. So I could delete this. I think some of this code is possibly usable. So we're just going to rename it to private. And that way my git ignore file is going to ignore this. Should disappear from here. There it goes. It just disappeared. Cool. So that's taken care of. I'm not going to do that. Now, we want to stop tables from getting removed. So I could just change that config value in app dev to false for chart density, but there may be, I'm trying to think, there may be development where I want that to happen. You know, I usually don't want this system-wide. It's rare that I want this system-wide. It's usually one module at a time. I'm having my doubts about using this in the future at all. I think I might just put blocks up here, and it's like if 1 equals 1 or 1 equals 0 or something like that, and you can just set it per module. So I think this is confusing. It's just it's gonna cause problems. This is not good. So let's open a new file and just say get rid of app dev and move to a non-mouse blocks in headers of schema files. Okay. It kind of makes the, if you know what idempotency is, or idempotent, it kind of makes the tables idempotent because you're rebuilding them from scratch. And that means you don't have to add columns every time and stuff. So what I have to be aware of is if I make changes, I need to go into SQL. And I don't want to add like alter table statements to my schema file at this point. That's like down the road once you've released. We want to stay like greenfield. Then I need to make those. I need to sync those changes in SQL Developer. So I think that's what we're going to do. And the best thing to do right now is just start that. I'm just going to say, do I actually want this? If 1 equals 0. So that change that. And what we could do is, yeah, we could. Let's just go look for it. What did I just? Oh, I can't do that. Let's come down here. Some other places like. Okay, so let's just look for app dev drop tables through the entire. Let's just get rid of this. See where it is. So you can see I've already tweaked it here, playing around with this. So okay. So what we're going to do, that all looks pretty safe. So let's just do a find and replace across the entire. I'm just going to change that to if, and we want to shut it off for now. 1 equals 0. And that's probably going to, is that all it changed? I guess most of those are, oh, we're going to save them. Here's something I like in Sublime. Close tabs to write. And then you got to go yes, 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 yes. And hopefully we didn't break anything. And we're just going to get rid of app dev. So show you how that's done. So we have this thing called, in our default, app dev. We just need to delete the file and then install. What we can do is we can just patch it right here. We can just say exec drop package app dev. And I kind of, did not need this. This could run 1,000 times. This could run for the next 100 years. It's not going to cause any problems if it doesn't exist. And now, get rid of app dev. We need to make the same change here. Delete file. And we'll just sync that change. Install. So that'll need to be synced out. So that's kind of how we patch that. And then you'll see this shows up here. Oh, here's all our other files. Getting rid of app dev package. I'm not going to explain why. And let's just do make sure nothing is changing we don't expect to change. Committing to our February 8th branch. And hopefully I'll be merging this to main. All the changes I've been making to main soon. Doing a push. So I consider that an improvement. It's a little simpler, a little easier to understand, and just doing this enough now over enough apps, I'm seeing like I'm not using it the way I thought, and I tried to outsmart myself. Was a dumb idea. Okay, so that's going to help us have a little bit more control over which tables get dropped when we run a full install or an install. You can run install, like you run the whole install, you can install just this app directory, or you can install just like K2. I'll have these all open a lot of times in SQL Developer, and then I'll run the one that's fastest that I need to run. Now here's a idea for a really cool feature, maybe on the SQL web. Like, it would be cool if we could just turn any tab into basically a button so that I could run it. Because a lot of times I'm just running the script that's in the tab, and I got all these tabs open. And if I could just turn them into a button over here, and then just clicking it would run it, and also have an option to auto commit, like just commit it, that would be cool. Another feature that would be cool is if there are DBMS output, just open DBMS output. I mean, this idea that I have to open, in the old version here, that I have to open a DBMS output window and then, you know, attached to the session is kind of annoying. Somebody, this kind of thing could just be automated. That would be cool. I haven't played with the web version at all. Okay, so now what we need to do is go down to K2 stats, and we've got this get Oracle metrics, and I don't think that's necessary. So this is a little out of date, but what we're doing here is this is how we collect our local Oracle database, a bunch of the database metrics, and this gets a lot of data. So we're getting the total weights, the total seconds weighted, and everything out of sysstat. And everything goes into the stat in table, and then it gets processed. And so I want this to run for this schema, but I want the stats. Normally the stats would just not belong to anybody. They'd belong to the app. I need all this data to belong to that one user as a data set. And so what do we got, 7 minutes? That's not going to happen in 7 minutes. But that's what I need to work on next. I basically am going to duplicate this code. And, okay, so one of the things we want ChartDensity to do is it can either ingest data, but it'll have the ability to go fetch data for you. And so those could be modules. So I could write a module like this, and let's say all it requires is like a key and a REST endpoint. And it'll fetch the data into. So now might be the time to, so this is where you go, well, should I do that now or should I not? But I could think about, like, where would I store this in the app if I'm gonna create one of these modules. So a little bit of thought I'll put into that. But in general, probably not. Probably just going to go ahead and write some code that basically turns this on for one user, and then I put the user name in, not the ID. That way, if I rebuild the user, this gets rebuilt. So that is, let's just get started on that. Okay, so let's just get started on that. We want to keep this open. And what we want to do is go to our, and we're going to create a new file. It's going to be called app get Oracle metrics. How about that? New file, file save, app get Oracle. Actually, we don't want to call it app because it looks too much like the stuff we provide. We're going to call it ChartDensity get local Oracle metrics dot SQL. This will be a procedure, I think. And yeah, we're going to change tab size to 3. I do that on every single file. There is definitely a way to set that in Sublime, but have not wanted to take the time to do that. So create or replace procedure. Get local Oracle metrics. What for user? P username equals in varchar2 is begin end. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is create a data set for this automatically. So this is going to be app create data set, and go to our app. We got just cut and paste these like, and so P data set name is going to be, now this is where that if you're using Copilot with Sublime or with VS Code, I think it works with and stuff like that. Pretty cool. It's guessing this for me. And let's see if it P dataset key. No, we don't want that. We want P description. We'll just say local database performance metrics. And P user ID. So we have to convert username to user ID. We do that with sasauth package to user ID. This is an overloaded function, so we're going to pass in the parameter so it knows which one to use, and then we pass in P username, which is good. And then is it P protected? So a lot of times I avoid Boolean a lot because you can't use it in SQL. So I tend to use a number, 0 false and 1 is true. So this is not protected. And that will create our data set for our user. So once we have a data set, that gets us a bucket, a data set name, and let's just run this. 2 minutes left. The cool thing I see about doing these 25-minute blocks is I'm surprised when it gets down to like 7 minutes how long the last 5 or 10 minutes. It's not because I was weary or dreary. It's just I'm surprised how long that takes. Whereas if I get on social media and start checking Twitter feeds and all like that, 25 minutes can go by in a heartbeat. So I do like this technique. I'm going to I'll put a link for this particular video. There's a bunch of these on YouTube. So anyway, let's get Oracle metrics for user. And I can't remember if create dataset throws an error if it already exists or not. Oh, we need to add the username. So we're going to go with, now this is where we want to do our chart density config.app test user. I believe that's it. Yeah, so we use the variable. Okay, let's go open that file up. Go to K2, up, app, chart, dev, and open. Is this going to work? F5. 1 minute left. Wrong number of types to create data set. Okay. Is it really? Look at this. It's always a little embarrassing. Description, user ID, one, dataset key. That's what I needed. And that's actually what I was thinking about, P dataset key. P dataset. So that's the unique key that we can use, and that's going to be the key for the bucket. Since we're down to 32 seconds for now, I'm just going to do foo. Try to run this. And app test user must be declared. Did I not call that app test user? What is that? App users, it's test user. Blah. Let's try that. Maybe we'll go over a few seconds just to see if we can get this working. Okay, hey, that worked. I don't know if I have to compile. So now let's look at our data sets. And there's our data set. Our data set key is foo, which will make the bucket key. Stat bucket. Not plural. Sometimes I go plural, sometimes I don't. I could do better. So that's our stat bucket key, which is a unique value within a user ID. That and we a data set is basically just a wrapper on stat bucket. All right, time to take a break. Thanks for watching.